Assignments and grading. So here is the list of obligatory assignments. Project, as I said, you choose one from the list, and well, I think we have a diverse crowd in this class. I do know, I have some idea of the knowledge and interest of some groups, but I'm less sure about others. And that was one of the reasons why I divided the assignments into two types, into this review and coding. But we'll see how many of you want to do the review and which projects, and how many will do the coding and which projects. And of course, if everybody wants to do the same project, then I would have to come up with some kind of sub projects or whatever. But anyway, I'll play it by the ear. As of now, there are two types, a few suggestions for each of the types, and it's mandatory, so you have to do one of the projects. Now, projects, group work, you split yourself into groups. I would say about 5 people. Yeah, I don't want to put any lower and upper bounds on how many people there should be in the group, but probably you can do it with 3 people. 2 is, well, kind of your problem. You would have too much work. I probably wouldn't want to allow too many people in the group, but again, let's see how it goes. So that's the project, and then the exam is, of course, the individual work. So there will be a few questions. As I said, I'm just filling the questions in as we go, and about half of them has to be answered for the passing. And if you want a 4 or a 5, then you'll have to let me know about it, and we will have to meet with you after the exam, and you will explain to me how you solved the problems. I will also I'll send an email about details on that, sorry. So if you just want to pass the course, you have to get half of the points. If you want a grade of 4 or a 5, you have to inform me at least 1 week before the exam, and then I will schedule a talk with you about your solutions. I will ask you how you solve the problems and so on, and then you will get a higher grade. Right, so there was a question whether you can write the report in Swedish. Yes, you can. So both Swedish and English work. I want to check the grammar, and other than grammar, I can read Swedish. And so the question was about the report. For the exam, I think I even have it's stated explicitly that you can write in English or in Swedish. So I'm going to the practice exam. Yes, you can write in English or Swedish. That's fine. But for the exam, there is not much that you will have to write. There are mostly numbers. For the report, yes, it's okay to write in Swedish. I'm more interested in the content of the report. And maybe I should make a note to actually explicitly state that it's fine to write in Swedish. Hope I addressed them. Right, so that's about the assignments, project and exam. Now the grading project is only pass and fail, and there is really no deadline. So do it whenever you want to get a grade for this course. And for the exam, you can get the full range of grades. Well, essentially, less than half you fail the exam. More than half by default you pass the exam and pass the course. If you want 4 or 5, we'll have to speak after the exam. But the project is mandatory, so if you don't pass the project, you don't pass the course. And if you do pass the project, then your final grade is the exam grade. Well, I guess what's written here is less complicated than the way I try to explain it. Hope there are no questions, as simple as it can be. And as I mentioned, so there are other assignments. I mean, I put them in quotations, like these homeworks and the practice exam. This is really, yeah, for your practice and for deeper understanding of things that we study. They are not graded, neither the practice exam nor the homeworks. And of course, on practice exam, as I said, it's I'm trying to make it as close to the actual exam as possible. Of course, I cannot do it exactly equal to the actual exam, because that would be the purpose. But really, the structure, more or less, the number of questions, the types of questions, not necessarily the exact splitting, of types of questions. I may have on practice exam, 2 questions on regulations, and on the actual exam 1 or 3. But in general, well, if there are questions on regulations in the exam, there will be questions on regulations in practice exam, and so on and so forth. So the types of questions will be similar, and kind of the level of complication for the problems will also be similar in the practice and the actual exam. So you can probably time yourself and understand what questions look easy for you. I don't know, maybe you're good with regulations, maybe you're good with GeoGebra and algorithms, and also to decide which questions you want to address on the exam to get enough points, to get half of the points, and which questions you don't want to waste your time on. So that's practice exam. And homework is more general. It includes both the questions which are similar to practice / actual exam, and also some kind of wider questions which would not appear on the exam, like may want to ask you, to look for some information yourself, find certain models of drones, look at some regulations, some abbreviations list, whatever. Of course, they will not ask you for something like that on the exam. So that's about the assignments and grading. A couple of more slides in this set just before we finish the first 45 minutes. 2 notes which are important in general, not really for the grading, but for this course, that of course there are certain delimitations. I mean, there are many things that do not belong to regulations and that we do not cover in this course. I mean, it's a huge and growing field. One thing that we don't cover at all, and well, the regulations don't have, that is the business models, neither for drone operators nor for the U-Space service providers, which are kind of the analogs of air navigation service providers for the manned aviation. How people will make money, well, regulations don't really have to tell you. There still should be some rules, and maybe there will be, but in general, business models are very much in the development. You may find some studies on business and growth and economic aspects of drones, but quick answer that business knows what to do. There are a huge number of drone applications. We'll look at some of them, but I know people are coming up with them faster than we may, or at least faster than I may think. So we don't cover that at all. We don't also cover, more generally, supply chains, where do we get all the parts for the drones, and so on and so forth. We will speak about some infrastructure like energy. Just mentioned that energy has to be delivered in some way to vertiports, to the places where drones start and land, but not too much into details where the spare parts are manufactured and so on and so forth. And even more generally, this whole ecosystem with the drones life cycle. Where do you utilize the drones, right? I mean, there are junkyards for cars. What do we do with the drones? I suspect there are quite a few parts that are not best for the environment, how to recycle them and so on. I hope people are thinking about that, but I'm not aware of those things. We don't cover them in the course anyway. Social acceptance is a big issue, and in projects I'm trying to cover up for that. Hopefully some of you will look at noise and visual pollution and other social impacts, but we don't really cover it in the course. And as far as I know, they're still not in the regulations. I know that some of countries have, or some of places, some cities like Barcelona, Helsinki have these noise maps and ideas about how much noise should there be, but I don't think anything is attributed specifically to drones. More general, I will make this point several times during the regulations lecture. In the course description, the syllabus that you have in the official page at LIU, I did put this point that we should know the differences of regulations in different countries. But right now, when EASA regulations came about, and it happened only in April this year, well, things are more or less harmonized. There are still differences, like different minimum age for drone operation and things like that, but more or less things are similar, at least across Europe. Anyway, so yeah, some places have some noise or maybe other social acceptance regulations, but we don't go into any details on that. Now, another note is this distinction, which is actually quite an important thing. It's always, or almost always, it's implied, and you can understand whether we are speaking about a single path, single mission, or about many drones. This is also true about the conventional air traffic management. These are two different, related, but still different questions. Routing one vehicle and understanding what the risk is, getting the certification, and then flying, versus managing large volume of aircraft. Okay, so kind of one path versus many, many different paths. And in principle, it's this, doing the high volume, is what the unmanned traffic management is about, and what the U-Space service providers should do. But regulations, I guess, are not there yet, at least not fully, or at least initially. This first thing, let's get one drone up in the air safely, going from one place to the other. It's very much in the focus, and we will be looking at it too. And there are a few demonstration projects. There is one in Sweden in which we participate called CORA-6 UAM, Concept of Operations for Extension for Urban Air Mobility. We will be flying one drone from Linkoping to Norrköping next autumn, I hope, and that's still a challenge. So not managing huge number of drones yet, but eventually we'll have to do that. And just the last slide about the sources for this course. Well, it's not only based on regulations. I also look at research paper, and more generally, I will reuse some of the slides and videos from work in other projects. Concept of operations, not so much, they're kind of superseded by regulations, but still I will refer to them. Yes, so I'm reusing lectures from various places in the world, including my own. That's an ongoing development. I mean, there are no experts with 20 years of experience in UTM, which is actually good news, because we are growing to be the experts, and it's really a booming field. As a last note, it's 2 o'clock, so we're finishing. There is no textbook for this course. If somebody is really willing, maybe you will be the one writing the book, and then I will use it in the next reincarnations of this course. But for now, we will use the regulations papers and other things.